Once again. Yeah. There's a reason why we don't broadcast the pre-show. Anyway, hey, welcome back to Merge Roundtable. Once again, you're here with us on a Friday. You're spending your lunch with us. We appreciate it. And we're going to talk about a bunch of topics. Some of them are great, I think. Some of them are, anxiety inducing. That's just how the news is, though. We're going to talk a little bit about ETFs because they're still,
still a thing.
The Bitcoin ETFs are still a thing.
Never heard of those before.
Last week.
It's still making its way through the news. We're going to talk about AI. This is a basket of AI stories to talk about. We talked about some Sam Altman a little bit yesterday,
My
but
favorite character in this universe.
we're going to dig a little bit deeper. Yeah, your absolute favorite person.
Shout out Sam, my boy.
Yeah.
Him and I on a speed dial basis.
Right. There you go.
Okay, his picture in the thumbnail.
Just waiting SWAT to kick the door in.
His picture in the thumbnail for you yesterday looks like you, Mark. I'm sorry,
Mark
Shut.
Let me
I'll
see.
pull it up, but he's your doppelganger.
Sam Altman?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know he was blonde and had blue eyes.
Well,
Yeah.
it was a monochrome type picture, so it kind of flattened it down a little bit.
Oh,
Flattering me.
Yeah. We're going to talk a bit, going to dive deep a little bit on AI, a recent court case and what it might mean for like the consideration of sentience in AI, because this is a topic we've talked about, like, I think 3 weeks in a row. I'm going to keep bringing it back until we get tired of it, I think. And then the death of media. It might be finally happening, guys.
Oh, wow.
At least that's what Taylor Lorenz is saying. We'll dive deep into that. Anyway, stick around. After the intro, we'll start talking.
Should I sit like this?
So, I forgot to introduce everybody in the intro. I'm Mark Hopkins. Obviously, Jim Durbin and Mark Shutt are my
Can we
my
just take a
co-host
moment
today.
to recognize that you have one job, Mark?
I have one job.
One job for the intro.
Yeah,
Failed.
Just missed it.
Yeah.
that's what I do.
I got to dig on you at least when I have the opportunity to.
I can't believe the technical problems caused by Mark.
I know.
Yeah. Well, so yeah. Where do you want to start? I think
Lay it on me.
okay, so here's a story that kind of got buried, and I didn't talk about it even in the intro. But I mean, everybody knows I'm big into social impact DAOs, and this week a new one got started. You remember the tornado.cash story?
Yes.
All right. So Alexy and Roman, what's Roman's last name? I forget. Alexy Pertsev, and I can't remember Roman's last name, but Roman is the other co-founder of tornado.cash, both under investigation for being essentially terrorists that are quote unquote providing funding to North Korea. Obviously, that's not actually what happened. They created a piece of open source software, but this is what they're being charged with. They launched a legal defense fund on Juicebox this week, which was promoted by none other than Amin Soleimani and Edward Snowden, and they have raised so far only about $500,000, but they've done so in about 6 days, which is it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money compared to what was going on during kind of the social impact summer a couple of years ago.
I can't let it go.
What is that? Can't let
Juicebox.
Juicebox. It's just the name of the software.
I like.
I know,
juice
but
boxes.
just think about that. I'm mounting a
Sun.
legal defense that's important because
Kool-Aid.
things have gone wrong. It affects my future. And to do that, I'm going to go to Juicebox.
You know, juice boxes could cause cancer.
Is that a fact? Not
It-
this
it-
juice box.
it is.
I'm talking about a serious issue of people misnaming their software, and you're talking about cancer causing juice boxes?
I mean, that's a serious issue in our world today.
Well, I mean, is it any less serious than GoFundMe or Patreon?
No, those make sense.
They make sense, but they're not. They're not like. I mean, it's not like.
Do you think Salesforce would have been Salesforce if it was called Squiggly Pen?
I mean, all of their product
Why
names
not?
do have pretty silly names.
I think it's the product at the end of the day. I don't really care the name. I think Patreon's a great platform. Like 5
It
years
hurts
ago.
Daddy when he says these things. You don't think branding matters at all? Branding and names?
No,
Twitter.
It
Twitter,
absolutely
that's
does.
a real serious sounding name.
But that was different
Yeah.
at the time, you know. it
What
was
about
fun.
X? Like
We
What
argue
does that
about that
mean?
at least, you know. But
Yeah.
you know, the
actually was thinking about this the other day. Like, how does Elon Musk come to the conclusion to call his everything platform X? Like,
because he always wanted to do it.
he just wanted to.
He
name
wrote it down in
something
the journal
X?
like 60 years
He,
ago.
he overpaid for the X.com domain name. Like,
Literally,
and he's trying to
Sometimes-
use
10 years ago, he's like,
So-
I gotta get it.
Sometimes something sticks in your head and it makes no sense, which is why people skydive at 70
Yeah.
or date younger women because they didn't before. It's just a mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to do this thing. This proves that I've been consistent throughout my entire life. There was a plan. It's not a plan.
Jim, I always appreciate your human side of our conversation.
Well, as I get older, it just takes more time. I'm going to pass that on. So,
Why are you rubbing your heart, man?
oh, it's just some information from the CDC. I'm fine.
well. So
It's not an opening. Go ahead.
So the topic of DAOs, which is what we were talking about when we took a little rabbit trail.
Yeah, sorry.
Myocarditis hole.
Carditis.
This just came out this morning. It's a article from Wired, who is increasingly becoming the National Enquirer of tech, in my opinion.
In a good way or in a bad way?
I mean, like if you value any type of truth in journalism, it's not a good way. But like, so here's the
Definitely.
headline: a dangerous new home for online extremism. DAOs.
That is just horrible. I hate how these headlines are all clickbait, like
Yeah.
literally all clickbait.
Yeah.
And let me just say, in my personal experience, I'm going to say this in the least obvious way possible, but it's very apparent that these companies want to have as much clickbait content as possible when it comes to talking about digital assets, cryptocurrencies, and let's just term Web3 overall. I've noticed a trend of, rather than focusing on the fact of the matter and the objective of the article or of the story, it's how many clicks and views can we get on this? And typically the most views that they get on anything related to crypto or Web3 are going to be more negative than positive.
Well, Taylor Swift, the idea, Taylor Swift, is that if you can stuff Taylor Swift keywords into your media, people are dumb enough to click it, which is why Taylor Swift, these kind of things are important because they show up just in the context.
Yeah.
Even if no one actually hears it or pays attention, it still shows up in the metadata read by the search engines.
Yeah. It's like using hashtags on a crypto post, but saying food or restaurant or
Why didn't
Hacks.
they change the word dangerous to like
this
dangerous?
I just want to acknowledge that peering into the future, this is the popular clip of next week. So hello, all these
because of
Taylor Swiftie fans.
They're going to be mad when they
That's a
don't
good
hear
point.
it.
Yeah, there's gonna be no Taylor Swift content whatsoever.
What about the dangerous? This could be dangerous.
Dangerous.
dangerous
Maybe
Taylor
if-
Swift grooming boys at 36. I am one of those boys.
Oh my god!
Please do not clip that.
Cut.
Yeah.
The no. So instead of dangerous, they should have called it dangerous,
Yeah.
and then they should have had the someone read it, and then you can have like an anchor making a little pun, and then it shows it. I've probably watched too much SNL in my life.
God, we say some heinous things in this podcast.
Did I watch too much SNL in my life?
I mean, I think this is getting widely lampooned on Twitter right now. And I think the interesting thing, the reason why it's being lampooned is DAOs have barely got their footing. Like we're struggling as a concept, as a set of protocols to find an effective way to do the things that we actually want to do, which is mostly pool money to invest in Dogecoin or whatever like the meme is of the week. It's not a dangerous home from extreme. Like it's not an effective tool for organization yet. There's been a couple of success stories, but there's not like a amazing, like, oh, well, all the extremists are going to rush into DAOs because it's solving everybody's problems.
Yeah, and to go off of that thought, I think the biggest problem here, it goes back to education, right? Anything in Web3, DAOs, and crypto all goes back to education. I mean, what percentage of the population even knows what DAOs are, right? I mean, I think in the entire world, only like 8% of people use crypto or something, like some very small number.
Yeah, it's still a minor percent. And of DAOs is not a dominant. It's an emerging technology within crypto. It's not a dominant technology.
It's an emerging technology within an emerging technology.
Correct.
So the point is that the educational component is so important, because authors will misguide their readers with headlines like that because the readers don't spend enough time educating themselves or having that understanding of what the author is actually talking about here.
Your buddy Barry Hurd. Oh yeah, you got to fix your mic.
Yeah, my bad.
Barry Hurd's talking to us in the chat. I can't see because it's there we go.
Join the conversation. I couldn't read it. My glasses.
So many
Joining the
technologists are
conversation.
operating the corporate AI structure across international boundaries. Some of the platforms are the new Lord of War selling AI enablement for dollars.
Yeah, and funny enough, I think CFTC this morning went and sued Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. Don't quote me on this. I think they sued them, or they filed something against these companies due to their involvement in AI and kind of probably their overreach in corporate America.
There's a ton of antitrust action and antitrust related stuff going on right now. Like big tech is just a great punching bag for all the regulators. It just is what it is. I don't necessarily think Meta or Google are any particular threat in the world of AI. I mean, have you used Google's AI? It's not.
I would disagree. I think there's a massive threat with these companies in terms of regulation and policy and how this industry becomes influenced and shaped at the end of the day. I think.
But I'm speaking like I don't think that. I was speaking from the other side. I think that there's definitely a danger of regulatory capture, which is what you're saying.
For sure.
100% agree with you on that. I don't feel like it's their AI efforts at Google and Meta are of a level of quality to be considered a threat that we need to regulate it.
Yeah,
I think
I've seen nothing.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of people say it's going to be there, it's claimed, but I'm not seeing anything that's
right
100% locked in works. It still takes people doing it, which means it's not a full AI thing. It's just automation.
Totally agree. And you're saying that on the regulatory side or on the user experience side? Yeah, I mean, on the user experience side, it's obvious. These companies are horrible at developing AI. They should focus on their main businesses, which is definitely not AI. I think ChatGPT is by far the best.
Yep.
Grok is dog poo-poo. And from a user experience standpoint, I mean, there's nothing. You and I could probably make a better one right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's all. Yeah, absolutely. There's so many better examples of open source models that are available to homebrew. But
that's the economics of it, and that's what's going to crush this ultimately. Is it's so expensive. Like I guess they finally fixed the stuttering problem where it goes, I don't really feel like doing all your work for you. Here's a fifth of it.
Well, also the concern is a lot of these models will give you inaccurate information rather than giving you no information at all.
Well, because after they're built, you have to decide, do I want no information or do I want nonsense information? There's no way to fix it in the middle, but the tokens is what it comes down to. It can't search the entire database for all time. It'd be like you running through a warehouse and you kind of know where things are, but it sure helps if they go section L. It's a lot cheaper and less expensive. That's probably the best way to look at it, is how exhausting is it to run through a warehouse? Because the ChatGPT models can make things work. The problem is the open source and the others, no one knows about them. So we're doing what, $20 for that. It's $20 for Microsoft Copilot.
But you don't need
what's the
Copilot.
premium Bard?
It's a coding tool, so you don't need it if you don't code.
Well, is that going to be close to enough? Like, what are the corporations going to get bills like AWS where they're using it, and the next thing they know, now it's 35% of their budget?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, that's why I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I talk about it every chance I can. The Morpheus project, if they can execute their vision, what's going to happen is you're going to see enterprise lock in the same way you see it with enterprise cloud. So Oracle's going to try to lock in Oracle's cloud, and AWS locks you on the AWS cloud, not through a lack of data portability. Just you get dependent upon, you integrate their systems into your systems, and before you know it, 30% of your IT budget or 70% of your IT budget is going to this large corporation. Right. So the AI is just another form of cloud in this respect.
Doesn't it have to be that way? Considering that for any pilot or any assistant, I use them interchangeably, I know they're not, or any agent, doesn't matter to me. I know you're picking me apart saying those, but they have to work. It has to work seamlessly without me thinking about it, without me having to check on it. If there's an error, it has to tell me. It has to work seamlessly. Whatever it is it's supposed to do, whether it's buy me plane tickets or post something on LinkedIn or tell me to take a pill.
Yeah,
Once
but
that works, everything building around it has to work inside that system.
Not necessarily. So
Unless someone builds an open source agent, then what are the chances of that not being malignant?
this is the beauty of what AI agents can represent is if you can make DevOps hardware and vendor agnostic, you defeat lock-in, which is then the eternal battle with an enterprise tech since has been originally conceived, since clouds have been conceived, which is, a 20-year, evolution of how the industry has become. So once you can defeat lock-in, that's the holy grail. Agents, automated AI powered LLM powered agents that take care of your DevOps for you have the ability to defeat lock-in, because at the bottom layer, you got the top layer, which is how it's used, how it appears to the user or the administrator or the IT manager. And you've got the bottom layer, which is just gridiron at the end of the day. A computer is a computer is a computer, right? The middleware is what is provided by Oracle and Amazon and HP Cloud and all these other, and Google Cloud and all these other ones. So the middleware is where they get you to lock in, because you have to make all of your corporate systems conform to their APIs.
Right.
And that's a hassle. That's a lot of coding work. But if you are having AI agents take the place of that middleware, and all you have to do is own your own agents, they can make all kinds of automated decisions on where your data lives and where your compute lives, and they can take care of the move for you as long as you allocate budgets.
Doesn't that have to be a closed system? What kind of nightmare
Doesn't
world
have
are
to-
you going to put something out there that's not governed from a cybersecurity standpoint? That sounds terrifying. I can't stop your LLM from rolling into something if it decides it wants the resources. How do you allocate resources? Like, how is that not a closed system?
How is it a closed system?
Well, it would have to be, so you can't control what the agents are doing. How do I stop your agent from getting onto my property?
You don't own my agent.
No, but I think he's saying
You don't that's what I'm saying. Like, your agent works for you. It's like an employee. Your employee doesn't go work for, if you have an employee, he doesn't work for some other company, he works for you.
Right, but then they have to work under this constraint, under the box of that particular company, right? Which in your case, you're saying these models will be using a basis that is involved across many different companies, right?
Here's an example. Your agent gets invoices and pays a bill, goes to the bank and pays a bill. Decent agent? Is that what you're? Do you have one that makes sure your household expenses are there and alerts you? So
I mean, this is stretching the definition. So this is a very specific application of agents.
Okay.
DevOps. It doesn't necessarily translate to a lot of things that involve real world activities, but everything about DevOps can be administered online through APIs and software. That's just the world that we live in. Because
I think I might have watched too much Justice League of America, because all I'm thinking of is Dr. Amazo's android that kept picking up other people's stuff, and then he made the decisions afterwards.
Right. Well,
basically the plot of Heroes.
I could roll I could roll the whiteboard out here, and we can have no, this is an important topic. I mean, this has like some real world applications. I think it's important that we delve down to it and actually explain it, because everyone's confused, and I want to say exactly what I'm trying to say.
Definitely confused here.
All right. Enterprise technology.
Yes, sir.
It is a 1% of the economy, 1% of global GDP. It's a major industry that's hotly contested and heavily covered. The thing that makes the world go round in enterprise tech right now is cloud, right? Clouds, Amazon kind of started the fire and everyone followed suit. And that is the way that they lock you in on cloud, is with API. One thing that LLMs are really good at understanding is API documentation. And one thing they're really good at doing is writing code. An agent is simply using that ability to make decisions and to execute actions that they're very, very good at. The brain of your agent exists fully within your control on an on-prem or a cloud server that you can control. Right. So it's not like somebody else can touch it. Nobody
it's not
else
a spider bot running around the net.
Right. It is something that is fully in control of you, the company that is the vendor to the cloud.
Maybe it's like your chatbot on your website. It's only when your website under your commands, it's doing it, but So it's only doing things inside that layer because
So to the extent that
and that's
API,
an agent.
yeah, that's an agent, right? So I mean, and it would take probably like an hour to describe like all the mechanics of how an agent might work, and how these things keep your data safe. But just assume that I'm telling you the truth and how this works for the purpose of this discussion.
Have you ever lied to me?
Right, of course. Well, I try not to anyway. So the point being here is that you can use this to defeat the age-old problem of enterprise lock-in, and that upends the entire enterprise industry.
Wait, how can you connect the dots here on how you can get out of the enterprise industry?
So, or how you don't get out of the enterprise industry. Enterprise still exists, but their main way for maintaining their profit levels and the forecasting of how their products are going to live on is going to be upended by agents, because typically, if you need to migrate from Amazon to an Oracle cloud, that is depending on the size of your operation, it could be a multi-million-dollar operation. Here for Harper Belmont, we're talking about migrating from Dropbox to Google Cloud. The time it would take for me and a team of like 3 or 4 other people to move that over, just to move our data over from one cloud to another, is at least 6 months. And it's going to take 3 or 4 full-time people, just because it's a ton of data. We've got terabytes and terabytes of video data up in the cloud. And we want to maintain our data structures and access levels and integrations with Discord and Slack and Monday.com and all the other productivity tools that we have, right? So to do that at a human level requires a lot of human capital, a lot of thought, and because it's expensive to do, intellectually expensive as well as capital expensive, most corporations stick with what they've got, even if it sucks. And so that's called vendor lock-in.
So you're saying now with the agents, it'll all live within that agent, which means you can move that agent around left and right.
Well, the agent can move your data. You won't even know where your data lives unless you query it, because it's going to say, okay, look,
the agent's autonomous or semi-autonomous. The agent,
right?
The assistant is when it's connecting with a human,
right?
Like you call technically ChatGPT an assistant because it's working with us,
correct? It's definitely not an
but
agent.
If you're running something in the background, then it would be an agent.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're recording YouTube stuff, that's an agent,
right?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. That's pretty.
I had
phenomenal.
ChatGPT tell me.
There you go.
That's pretty phenomenal, though, to think about.
Right.
That's a great use case for many companies, especially smaller sized or mid-sized companies like HB.
Notification is a huge problem with software because you've got so much of it. You don't know who installed it. Sometimes it's installed wrong. So it doesn't matter if you're a 5 or 6 person company or if you're 500 with 50 people in your license, you don't know what's going on. You have to jump to every single dashboard. So imagine the power of a small business user logging into their Intuit or their Chase Bank or their ADP and actually being able to say, hey, by the way, you know, what's that app that everybody what's the one that supposedly looks at your subscriptions and tells you if you're overspending?
Rocket Money.
Is it Rocket Money?
Yeah.
Imagine a Rocket Money for small business owners to say, hey, oh, by the way, you have a $600 charge that's coming up in a few days. Do you still want to buy this annual? Did you remember to do that? Did you
first thing I did with chat when I got it was when they were able to take CSVs was like export my bank statement and use it as Rocket Money. Yeah.
How was it?
The first thing. Yeah, it worked. It's fine. I think I gave it like 6 months worth of data and it pulled up all my recurring payments and got it to organize it through like subscriptions. And I didn't have that many, but I always saw Rocket Money. I'm like, oh my God, like if I had time, I could be able to pull this and do this myself, but just have chat do it. And then now with the custom GPTs, you can incorporate APIs and other, like proprietary tools into yours that makes it even more powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of fun with that as well. Like there's been a lot of the custom GPTs that have been real useful for analyzing like legal documents. There's been a couple like lawsuit decisions where like I could sit down and like drink a cup of coffee and understand it, but I'm like, this is going to put me to sleep.
It seems really good on physics.
And so you can just say, hey, parse this PDF. Some of like a PDF parsing custom GPTs are really good because they've gotten it down to where like the token limits are and how to go through it. And you're just like, okay, but pretend I'm like I don't know. pretend I'm a crypto bro or whatever, and then explain this to me in terms I can understand. Pretend I'm a 5-year-old, explain this lawsuit to me. Well, it's kind of like whenever Bobby takes your juice box on the playground and whatever it is, but it at least keeps your attention.
You should let the AI make up the metaphors from now on.
Yeah, I should have.
It seems
it's
really good.
We got juice boxes on the brain.
Yeah.
I just wanted to cut to me to put that up.
Yeah, I don't know how to transition to this next story, but it's in the realm of AI.
Taylor Swift.
I'm still waiting for my awakening from you.
Are we going to talk about Taylor Swift? I have an important, cogent point.
I mean, there was a Taylor Swift story about. So it was again, going back to your thing about clickbait. It was a clickbait story talking about Taylor Swift is pissed off because there's been AI porn of her this week, but it turns out she actually never made a comment about it. She's probably pissed off. She knew, but she hasn't said anything to the world about her opinions on it in the matter.
Well, it's definitely blowing up your Twitter and your LinkedIn and some other random stuff. Your Reddits are exploding.
I don't know what Reddits and LinkedIn and Twitters y'all are squirreling on, but I have not seen one bit of this.
I don't even try. I don't have anything about her. Maybe it's because I'm attached to all those Chiefs fans.
Well, if she knew, maybe the whole world would know how scary AI is,
Is it though? It's no, I mean, here's the thing. It's unfortunate. You really do want to keep that stuff kind of set away. I remember the first time I ran into it, the worst thing I've ever seen, it was a Usenet survey back in college, and it was Brady Bunch fanfic. Not safe for work, Brady Bunch fan fiction.
Mm-hmm.
And I made the mistake of reading a couple of stories, and I have yet to watch the Brady Bunch since.
Right.
I don't sing the song. I don't make jokes about it. It just ruined some stuff for me. But I mean, honestly, what did they think was going to happen? It's not her. Just from a legal standpoint, why can't I steal your likeness with AI?
Yeah, I mean,
what is the art?
What's just advanced fanfic? Yeah.
How is that any? I mean, obviously, there's the chance things go wrong, but that's on us as a public for believing the things we see. Why do you believe the nightly news? Or do you really think Transformers have come from a different planet here and are fighting? No,
maybe
you know that it's fake.
You never know,
right? So, what responsibility do we have? Because here it is. The only reason it became an issue, it turns out it wasn't an issue, but the only reason it becomes something is because it's Taylor Swift. It's like Lou Gehrig's disease. Of all the problems with AI that we have, it's because Taylor Swift's associated with one of them. That becomes the danger everybody talks about.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think the real problem here
with
the technology is not the actual tech, and it's the. Let me rephrase this so we can clip this part, but. I think the real problem here is not the technology, it's the human behind it. Okay. Just like with crypto, when FTX failed and all these companies fail, and just like with AI, when we have all these heinous things, it's not like the AI is doing it, and it's not like the blockchain is doing it. It's the human behind it who's prompting it to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
How is it different from me drawing it?
I mean, I'm
sure it's better.
That's
and
my
faster
point,
and quicker
though.
And
hold on, that's my point.
You might be able to recognize her.
That's my point. Is it's not different because it's you of putting that input and that output. So now instead of you having the output of you drawing it on a piece of paper, you're still putting the input. Just the output is now managed by a third party, aka either the blockchain or the AI. In the case,
it can't be quality because there's a lot of good quality. It's got to be. It's just volume and. It's the money. It's oh my god, why can't I make money off this anymore?
Everything's about money.
It's
America.
So this is, I mean, this is actually a good opportunity to deconstruct. If you've been following the Pal World thing that's going on this week,
I want to say one more thing about Taylor Swift because I think it applies. They had a concert. It was too expensive, so the next thing she did was put the concert into theaters. She has no problem using virtual likenesses to make money of the stuff she was doing, and people who went basically said it was just like being at the concert. How is that different at all? It's going to be a difficult. I mean, it's great to see she's not arguing about it, but I think this is going to come up a lot. Do you own your own likeness?
Well, speaking of how was she there when she was not physically there, the NASDAQ had an IPO recently in which the CEOs were not actually present, but they were in this hologram box, and it looked super real. And I think that's the future. Like I'm not going to be sitting here doing this podcast with you. You're going to put a little box here and it's just going to be an image of me. We're
Okay.
totally headed down that dystopian world, in my opinion.
You're just going to be fat lying on a giant repulsor lift.
Yeah, like
Eating
Wally.
Cheetos.
100%. I totally believe that. We've discussed this. I totally have a pessimistic look for the future due to technology, not because of the tech itself, but because humans are incapable of handling the tech.
I mean,
properly.
This was this is part of our discussion yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's. I don't think that's.
I'll
the
die
problem.
on this hill. Honestly, I totally will. I really believe it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll circle back around.
Yeah,
To
let's do it.
the issue that I was going to say, or the thing I was going to. Well, I totally lost my point. So let's just move on to the next AI story here.
I wanted to be Morpheus and hand him some batteries.
Yeah.
All to turn a human being into this.
I mean, who knows, man? Like,
Matrix was this movie that was
I know what the Matrix is, and I'm not that young. I actually just rewatched it recently.
if you want to mess with people, go the what? And just keep going, the what? Oh, I think I saw that on Netflix a couple of years. Just mess with them.
Yeah,
The what?
Was it like a Rick and Morty episode or something?
I think I saw that at Rick and Morty. It was on Family Guy, right?
Yeah, right. This is your hologram thing you were talking about.
Yeah, so this is a company, Proto, who like literally it does the hologram in a box. I think it's pretty consumer not consumer, but
I mean, that's what you guys have right over there.
Yeah, it's close to it. Yeah, but it's the display technology that's uniquely there.
Yeah, the display technology, and then they have, I think, the opposite box that you can step into, and it has the capture technology.
I always wonder about stuff like this. So it looks cool, and I know people excited, but do you remember the apps that you could set your phone on the ground and it took your size and then sent you clothing?
Yeah.
That was like 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear anybody ever talking about it. I don't know anybody who does that anymore. I know people still go to tailors or have stuff handmade. And there's that question, is that there's a point where you're just like, I mean, it sounds like a genius idea. I don't remember any of us doing it.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of the stuff just is really cool, but doesn't have a good use. I mean, like, it's not expensive to go see a tailor. If you need your clothes, like going to a thrift store and then going to a tailor is the best way to get a $3,000 suit,
right?
And it's costs you like maybe $100 if you see.
It might be a little off color.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, I've gotten some great suits that way.
It might be Macy's instead of Macy's.
Whatever. Who cares?
The knockoff brand of Macy's. All right, what's next on the agenda? I want
next is we're going to talk about, after we tailor, we're going to talk about my dry clean regimen, because we're going down that. No, we're going to
when are you going to surprise me? That's all I really came here for.
Okay, so let's talk about what. What am I going to surprise you? We'll see.
You said I have a surprise today on the show.
I did?
Didn't you?
I don't know.
I'm going to surprise you at exactly 1:45 p.m. on this January 26th mark.
Okay.
Well, I won't be here at 1:45. I have a hard stop at 1:30.
Ah, darn, we're gonna miss it. So this week, a court ruled in favor of Bright Data and Meta versus Meta v. Bright Data, reaffirming the right to collect public web data. This sounds like a very dry and boring case. Why we care about data collection? The details here: the crux of the lawsuit is between Meta and Bright Data, centering around the legality of web scraping practices. Specifically, the dispute was whether Bright Data's actions scraping public data off Meta's platform and Instagram violated Meta's terms of use. The courts found in favor of Bright Data. Why are we bringing this up in the middle of a discussion about AI? Do you know the answer? You seem to be snapping your fingers. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, this is huge.
Yeah.
Because
how's it huge?
It's important to the everyday person that they can own their data, and any data that's public from big companies means that it is also our data, which means we can use it, we can monetize it, we can learn from it. Does that sound about right?
Absolutely. Well, in specifically when it comes to AI, like, this is an additional point in favor of those that are creating these complex models with public data. Right. We no longer have to rely heavily on the idea that we are creating a sentient being and use that sort of legal argument as to why they should be allowed to have access to public data. This case has said, if it's public, it's public. Anybody can scrape it. You can't stop them.
Yeah. And I also think the importance of having such a revolutionary technology, the importance of having open source, it's like completely, you can't overstate the value of that, right? This technology is obviously the future in every sense of the word. It's going to completely dominate our lives. And for it to have that big of an impact, you would hope and you would want that the underlying technology is open to anybody to look into, to edit, to work with, and to also critique at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, and then to the point that we've been talking about is AI sentient. There was a story this week in Quantum magazine, talking about a scientific study, if I can get it to pull up. It says that chatbots actually understand, not can scan and interpret, but actually understand text because of the way that the models are. They're far from being quote unquote stochastic parrots. The biggest LLMs seem to learn enough skills to understand the words they're processing without understanding the words themselves, understanding the deeper meanings behind them.
Well, what comes to mind anytime I hear sentient is that one time the Google whistleblower came out and said that Google has a sentient being. Whether it's true or not, the reality is it's kind of scary because no one knows what's really happening under the hood in these secret rooms in the government Pentagon, where you have to be extremely classified.
I prefer the civilian Pentagon.
Civilian Pentagon.
I'm glad you brought up this Google guy.
Yeah. So, I mean, the point I'm just trying to make is, again, back to my dystopian world, like who knows what's happening behind the scenes? I mean,
So Hill, can you bring up the first link I sent out about 10:30 this morning? This is a tweet that's going viral about the Google the Google whistleblower guy you're talking about.
The gang stalked him, drove him crazy a little bit.
Whatever happened to that guy? I wonder. Like,
oh, you're about to find out.
You're about to find out.
Him?
You're about to find out.
It's been a year.
Found naked and dead in random lake in Siberia.
Not dead.
Catching up with that guy Google fired for being convinced the chatbot was sentient. Quit fucking sending me DMs about AI sentience.
He goes on and says some other cuss words about
You're not
that.
having sex with me or with my friend. I don't want to hear it.
My intention from this point forward is to shoot artistic videos or women's faces while I go down on them. This thread will perpetually be available for discussions of cunnilingus technique. Only anyone want to duel now.
Wow.
This is
Show
the
the
man.
picture. Show the picture.
This is the man.
The penguin.
That's him?
That's him.
That's literally him.
That's him.
That is the early kingpin.
That is the biggest. Honestly, this a little bit
played by
this
Vincent
discredits
D'Onofrio
him. This completely discredits him, but maybe that's what he wanted to do.
Well,
he actually, interestingly, like after that, went on the H3 podcast, the only long 2-3 hour interview, and so it's a good watch for anyone interested in. Like Mark, you should watch it. Like,
and then you should come tell us about it.
Should identify which Mark you're talking about here, please.
Shut, because if you're interested in what this guy was talking about, we've already talked through all of his ideas of sentience and.
So, Mark
Hopkins,
thought
it was.
What is your conclusion?
My conclusion is that this is the guy that inspired the moral panic about AI for the last year.
Maybe that's a good thing.
No, it's not. I mean, why? Because, all right, so this is the guy that you're putting your trust into, who is telling us that he is scared about the sentience of AI.
To be fair, I did just say that tweet completely discredits him.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But the people like Joe Rogan, like serious publications like Wired, Bloomberg, real journalists and real influential podcasters have been taking their cues from that guy, saying we're headed for a nightmare scenario.
Yeah, but that's a stretch to say. Where's that guy in crypto? They're doing that for every crypto headline that they possibly could. If it wasn't this guy, it'd be the next one. You know what I'm saying?
But this is the one that they use as the credible example of somebody inside that says that things are going bad.
I mean, okay. Let me put it to you this way: as much as you want to discredit him, the guy did work at Google on the inside.
He didn't say
in their AI department.
He was just saying it was unhelpful,
right?
But how many whistleblowers worked in the government at Area 51 talking about, having sex with aliens or whatever, right?
Never heard anyone.
We probably need one of those
you know what I'm
difficulty
about, right?
things on the screen.
Do you want a button?
Yeah, we need a button out here that we can click whenever we want. Because
every time Sohail jumps in and says, well, my credit score and my phone number, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's still interesting. Like, obviously that tweet is just heinous and just horrendous. I never will follow this guy or listen to him, but it makes you think, right? Like, it makes you wonder, like, well, what's really happening? And that's the conspiracy side of me, like, coming out. But
Well, take a look at what happens when you have whistleblowers. Do you remember a guy named Joe the plumber? Recently
yeah.
passed away, by the way.
He did.
no,
Didn't know that.
Who's Joe?
So
the
he comes
plumber?
out. He's just some random guy, and he happens to be speaking at an event. I think it was John Kerry was there.
Before you continue, can we preface that not all whistleblowers are accurate or true?
No.
Let's
But
put
this
it
is
out there.
But the place he came out, all of a sudden, the conservative media really jumped on it because he said something about basically the economy. I'm a hardworking guy. You're trying to put me out of business. So immediately, the people supporting Kerry was Obama. It was Obama. It was
No.
Obama. It was 2008, right? Yeah, because Joe the plumber.
Yeah.
So basically, this guy they just trashed him. Oh, he had a bankruptcy. He's not a real plumber. They just completely went after him and made him out to be a crazy guy. And he ends up going and giving speeches all across the country for stuff, which always makes me a little nervous when anybody starts doing that. So here's a whistleblower, but here's someone who said something that got caught. The media picks it up and people run with it. The woman in Florida, the one who was doing the COVID panel.
Yeah.
So that's a different one. Immediately, the one says, "Oh, she's a whistleblower proving that COVID policies in Florida are terrible." That turns out she wasn't. She was one of these people that you lose all credibility for.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. We still don't know. For all I know, the stuff could have been right. Was she smeared? Because immediately they let off that, here was someone who's stalking and had like protective orders against her. So how could she be real? But is that the smear that happens? That's the problem with whistleblowers. It's instantly you're a bad person versus it all depends on the person being protected. Doesn't matter if it's kids and Michael Jackson or
What about Free Rothschild?
How is Monica Lewinsky's life ruined, but Bill Clinton's was fine?
I think specifically here, what I'm trying to say is that here is somebody who the entire media has based a narrative around on AI because they trusted his judgment about what he saw at Google.
Did they ever talk to him though? Or they just ran with the story?
And that's also the failure of the system. Like,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't matter if they talked to him or not. He said some stuff. The media ran with it, built a narrative on it based on what they believed his judgment to be, primarily over the fact that he has credentials, that he worked at Google.
Right.
And then it comes out a year later that he's kind of a wacko. Like,
wow.
What is his judgment?
Or did he
wow,
become
that's never
wacko 'cause
happened
he lost
before in the
his
news
job
where they
and-
provide some
I'm not
fake
s-
information.
But I'm saying,
That's what I'm saying. It's
but
hard
I'm
to know.
saying if you believe the same thing as this media narrative that's been going on for a year, because that's what the foundation of it is. If you are saying, I think there might be something there, you might want to re-examine your beliefs.
Didn't we have a conversation here on this podcast? Correct me if I'm wrong, that 50% of America still believes that the government can do no bad.
No, you said that. We said that was way off.
Okay. Well,
In fact, they said another one that shows how bad it is. It's plummeting, which seems weird.
Yeah.
Who are these people that believe anything?
Right.
First of all, I love
hope
it. Who's the guy
nobody
telling the joke? He goes, first of all, to say you don't believe in conspiracy theories, you don't believe in any. You think the government's batting 100%?
Right.
It's a great line.
what was that recent thing that came out that the FBI had an involvement with something? Oh no,
the
I know what
Whitmer
it
one
was.
for Michigan.
No,
And the
I mean, I'm
J6
sure
stuff,
they did.
'cause that's-
It was
they're talking
actually
about that now.
MLK Day was recently,
Mhm.
I always
and
bring that up.
there's literally confirmed files that say the FBI did have a role in his assassination.
For sure. Yeah.
So I
Yeah,
hope-
not all conspiracy theories are just theories. Sometimes they're conspiracy facts. Conspiracy is just a bunch of people working together for a secret plan.
They
for
made
sure.
up the word conspiracy to discredit people after, not made it up, but they made it popular.
yeah.
People
And
didn't
then
talk
they-
about
trend now.
conspiracies in that sense.
And then they go and declassify like Radio Free Europe or Radio Free Asia.
And then they
like,
still head on to the Kennedy files for just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Apparently, Kennedy files
cool.
and Mickey Mouse are the two things you can't.
What does Mickey Mouse have to do with this?
please
Steamboat
don't.
Willie just
Let's not
recently
do
got
it.
into the
I'm just kidding.
Steamboat Willie, the original Mickey Mouse cartoon, just recently got into this. So you can now use it. You
Oh,
can't
the
call it
IP,
Mickey Mouse,
the IP.
but you can actually use the IP. Of the
I've heard about this.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool though, right?
Well, it all,
Superman and
it's-
Batman in 10 years.
If you want to have one theme of the show today that everything we've talked about revolves around, including this other Taylor Lorenz topic we haven't got to yet, it's all about IP and our changing attitudes towards IP. This is the thing I was trying to bring up with the Pal World thing. but we kind of went a different interesting direction. So there's this game called Pal World that's like the #1 game on Steam right now, and it's pretty popular on Xbox Game Pass as well. And they're in kind of like a little bit of hot water because a lot of their models look very close to Pokemon.
They're in hot water because they made a game that's 10 times better than anything Pokemon or Nintendo or any of these companies ever made.
Or something.
Yeah, that's the reality.
Right. Well, so gamers are
It's a
very
good name.
hotly divided on whether or not. I mean, obviously the game is very popular. It's you can see that from the stats and the playtime, but the discourse, which is always fun to read between gamers, is a group of people that are normally like screw large corporations. IP is meaningless. Who cares if you steal from Nintendo? They can afford it. It's sort of
Now they're Pokemon defenders.
they're defending it because it uses AI, and because AI, there's some AI elements to
In
the
the
game.
game.
Yeah,
Okay.
and because it uses LLM AI elements which steal, now there are suddenly pro IP. Like there's a whole it's an intellectual disconnect within the folks that
I don't
you
know.
can steal IP, but not like that.
I don't know. You got to be.
You can steal from large corporations, but not like that.
You got to be really like nerdy enough to care. Because if I'm playing this game and it's a great game, I don't give a flying rat's butt.
Pirating movies is bad, but screenshotting Instagram pictures and starting my own OnlyFans account's illegal. I don't understand.
It's illegal or illegal?
No. The basic idea is that people complain when it impacts them.
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. That's all it comes down to.
And
Like
maybe
my
this is
grandmother
the-
used to say, people who say things aren't fair aren't having things going their way.
I mean, that's the memeology here, right? So the memeology of where, like the genealogy, the memeology of where this silly discourse and intellectual disconnect is coming from is there's already a movement of independent artists and game creators that are anti-AI because they feel the pressure of, sometimes their low quality work is going to be outclassed by AI.
That's like saying my minimum wage McDonald's worker is getting upset that the robot that is going to be cheaper than them is going to replace their jobs. I mean,
No
there's
difference. It's
there's
just
there's
impacting
so
them.
many. It's all a matter of perspective at the end of the day, honestly.
Oh, we're an artist. What I do takes effort.
Right,
I don't care about the burger flipper. I care about me and art and love, not feeding your family because you work at McDonald's.
But this is an important thing to understand why it's coming from, why and where it's coming from, because it's not just a few people. It's a few influential game developers and their fans. Because just because it's a game creator or an artist that's only got 1,000 or 2,000 hardcore fans, but when the moment they say AI is bad, now they got 2,000 people that are like, oh, absolutely, AI is bad.
Right. Agreed. Let me twist it this way. What if you're on the flip side of the argument and you see how great this game is and the fact that it does leverage AI, and because it has leveraged AI, it has made a game that is so much better than the ones that have not leveraged AI. It's the same thing with the art argument. If I'm an artist and I know AI is going to replace me, well, I'm going to probably do everything I can to understand that AI and become the best AI artist out there. The same way I would do that for my job, whether that's writing, whether that's compiling presentations, whatever it might be. The answer is not, hi, I'm going to complain about this thing because it's going to replace me. No, it's I need to adapt and evolve because that's what human beings do.
Because you're young.
You're preaching to the choir here, right?
I know.
No,
it's not even
it's a young thing because he's aware, because he's seen this and he's tapped into a lot of new stuff. You're like, I'll figure it out, which is what you do when you're young. Imagine that you didn't have that ability to
but
change.
a lot of these Luddites
stuck in
are
that-
young people.
Yeah, that's a weird part.
Yeah, for sure.
But that just means they're old young people.
But I disagree. I think this goes back to a lot of the things we were discussing yesterday about human beings becoming weaker and weaker because of these technologies.
Right.
I'm a young, ambitious person where I see this type of thing. It upsets me for a moment. It sucks. Like, it is what it is. But I know the future is headed that way with or without me.
Might as well win.
Might as well win and adapt to
Can't
that.
beat them,
And
join them.
my only argument here is like, I hate these complainers about AI and about all these things. Like, if you
It's the same people that complain about NFTs
or about anything, honestly, though.
Well, it's the
anything.
anti-crypto,
I'm with that.
anti-NFT, and anti-big tech crowd.
Like, NFTs enabled artists to do so much more that before they weren't able to do. And a lot of it is dog shit. A lot
Yeah.
of it is probably worse than what they had before NFTs.
A lot
But
of
now, because there are NFTs, they can do it better. And that's maybe my point with the Pal Worlds is, let's think about this on the flip side to the complainers out there in the audience. What if you just imagine a world where, wow, this one game that, by the way, I read this, they had like 4 people on their team with less than a $10 million budget. And you're complaining that they made a game that's
Yeah.
better than fucking Pokemon and Nintendo? Like, are you
Better than
joking?
Star Citizen.
That's what you're spending your time doing?
Why
Like,
aren't we
come
mad
on.
about Star Citizen instead of being mad about one that actually worked?
I'd rather become the best player on this video game and make money streaming it than complain and go try to side with Nintendo and big tech on it.
If Star Citizen had been the one ripped off instead of Pokemon, they could have sued. And even though they can't create a game, they can stop someone who did create a game.
Yeah, IP rules are silly.
They are. They're
And
horrible.
The developer behind Pal World's name is Pocket Pair.
Pocket Pair. As,
It's a
as like a
company, it has to
poker
be, right?
reference.
No,
there?
I mean Pokemon is Pocket Monsters.
Oh, okay.
So
They were obviously trying to give a big middle finger to these guys.
Well, he wanted to talk about Pokemon. Do you want to share some stuff, Sohail? I think it's pay.
no, I
Okay, you just seem to really want to jump in. I mean, you know,
Well, anyway,
It's
I was
Pocket
going
Pair.
on a passion rant there, not at you,
Yeah.
at the concept of these underlying arguments. They're just so silly and so dumb.
you're going to have to wrap your head around the fact that most of the world has no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah,
And that's going to be true for all of your life
100%.
because people
I'm
are
fine with
busy.
that.
They're doing stuff and you haven't really kind of, because that's the question is, so let's say you get some super good people, AI assisted people in recruiting and sales and marketing. Because the truth is a lot of that stuff you can do and you could do it as well as an entire agency used to. If you really put the time and effort in, you better charge the same amount. But the problem is what about everybody else? So Henry Ford's big thing was we're going to raise everyone's salary so they can afford the car. What do you do if 80% of people can't do it? What happens when only 3% of
then-
people can do anything?
Then what? So the other 20% should succumb so that the 80% can be on the same level
What
as them?
percentage of the U.S. can farm today? Do you know what that is?
I'm sure it's very low.
3.5%.
It's horrible.
It used to be about 80-90%.
Yeah.
That creates a risk level as a civilization that we've never addressed.
Totally
What do you
agree.
do when nobody knows how to make food? What are you going to do in AI when nobody knows how to work? Because a few of you are really, really, really good.
It's
right?
true.
Well, that's a problem that solves itself.
What are the rest of the
AI
do
is
themselves?
also a very excellent teacher.
And a lot of this argument can be applied to many things. So I totally agree with you. And that is a strong counter against what I'm saying. And
It's not a counter. It's just a recognition. This
For
true
sure.
for every bit of tech.
for sure.
What do you do with people left behind?
For sure.
Since the Industrial Revolution, that's the whole pitch is what do you do when someone's automated out of a job?
There's no perfect
Taylor
answer.
Rynch just realized, oh crap, journalism.
Yeah, everybody needs to learn code. So play this clip real quick because I think it dovetails what we're talking about. Jen and I had a great conversation out in the green room before the show about it. Okay, everything up into the last sentence there was interesting. I don't think the world. I don't
Is
think
this her first time realizing that this is a problem?
All right, wait. I want to make a comment. Everything she said is objectively true,
Correct.
in the sense of all the layoffs and whatnot. But what this video fails to address is the fact that AI will create other opportunities that, yes, it might not directly be journalism the way they understand it now, but there will be other opportunities in the industry or not in the industry that these people who are being laid off can learn, can adapt, and then eventually succeed the same way they're succeeding in journalism now. That is my only point about this, all this stuff.
No, because the point of all these guys going into journalism, from Gawker to all of it in the last 20 years, has not been journalism. It's been telling a story. It's been part of a social movement that was funded by left-wing billionaires, and they captured journalism and media. They fired because it was too expensive. News is expensive.
For sure.
And so the problem was
Media
they had
is.
ads and stuff. They couldn't adjust to it. They laid off all the old real reporters in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. Like folks that they, even if you knew what their political side was, or if they hated the environment, or if they hated business, or whatever it is, you knew they were fair and they were honest and they were true journalists. These guys, they're newscast anchors. I have zero concern for, and the fact that this is considered new is also
this is beyond that, and this
has
beyond
been 20 years they've been talking
beyond
about
that.
this.
It's beyond that and beyond politics. You're right in that it's not a new problem. This started with Craigslist, the death of media, and it's something that you and I have seen coming since the early 2000s. Like I'm on the record, you're on the record. It's not a new phenomenon, but this is it. This is the death rattle that we're witnessing right now. That's what she is making note of, is the death rattle of traditional media. I don't think it's political. I think it's just bad business.
Let me ask you this. You just said it's the death of traditional media. You're right. It is the death of traditional media. You want to know why? Because I don't check traditional media.
Because
I'm
they killed it.
23 years old. I don't never look on the news.
Yeah, but no one
I get my
23 ever
news.
did.
Exactly. That's my point. That's my point.
But you don't understand that you exist within an ecosystem that has failed to adapt. The news that you do check, and the news that all of us check, originates with traditional media. We will feel the effects of this.
Does it originate from traditional media?
Where do you think she got all those headlines? That she's not traditional media in that delivery, right? We got the news from her on a TikTok channel.
We're talking about reporting on reporting on reporting.
That's true.
Reporting,
that's true for sure. But if something's happening in real time, I can go on my phone right now, open TikTok, and we can all film a TikTok and report the news, with or without the traditional media, right?
Right.
No, but you have to report the news. What are you reporting? Where's the investigation? Where's
what? That's my point. Like, the sources are changing. The foundations of this are changing.
The sources are not.
So
changing.
Do you know what the AP
That's
is?
the problem.
Yes.
You do realize that the AP basically foreshadowed all of this. So when all those local newspapers, ones you probably haven't heard of unless you really studied journalism, like all the big ones, because they all every major city used to have 2 newspapers.
Yeah, at least,
and that was a normal thing, right? So the AP came along and they started offering these stories for sale, because a lot of times what was happening is the New York Times, the Washington Post would write something, and then someone out in Indiana would read that, and then they'd write on it. So you were getting your news secondhand. So the AP said, we'll just rewrite all the major stories from Reuters and BBC and all these big, worldwide organizations. So companies started buying it. The problem is that meant that your local paper, if you already got the Times, the journals, to watch TV or read it long before the internet, why would you read your local paper? You read your local paper for interest stories. So they started focusing on sports. But then sports started doing it. So what happens is eventually you reach a point where you're not reading your local newspaper anyway. Why would you then care what happens? You've been reading the same direct for 30 years. You just didn't know it was under a different one, and they shrank and they shrank and they shrank.
I mean, that's the corruption of capitalism.
This is just the acceleration that occurs.
Yeah, 100%. I totally agree.
The corruption of capitalism.
Yeah, I mean that's a chunk of it. The problem is that we've got something that we depend on to live in a society where the citizenry has to be at least some level of informed. We have built a country, a concept called democracy, that requires that you have an informed electorate, and we have not built in a subsidy in this system that maintains the channels of information. This is like if you had created Bitcoin, but you didn't create a subsidy for miners. You have a Byzantine non-fault tolerant system called democracy. It relies on journalism that no longer is subsidized.
Guys, we're fine. You know how all the newspapers in the country are owned by left-wing billionaires? Good news.
Mark didn't like that one.
Good
But they're
news.
not. That's the problem. We can't
Good
call.
news.
So wait, I gotta call you out on
They
this.
just bought the new Baltimore Sun, just got bought by a right-wing billionaire.
Rupert Murdoch exists, right? This is
Yeah,
a
but
problem
that's-
for him too. I mean, for News Corp too. News Corp is
News
being
Corp.
gutted just as much as WAPO.
Oh, yeah, no, it's the problem really is the fact that people don't click on ads.
Yeah,
Maybe
mean,
they never did.
they never did. No, so the whole
Will this kill Google and Facebook?
the foundation of news. If you look back, I mean, this is why I say Craigslist killed news, is because 70% of all newspaper revenue came from classified ads.
So they sold cars, car dealers, furniture dealers, real estate, and employment ads were the 4 big ones for them.
Right.
And Craigslist started killing a good number
All
of
of those categories. Everybody went to Craigslist because it was relatively free, and they had like 12 employees, and they all could be subsidized by all the revenue that was created by those little pennies on the dollar ads, right? And so when you didn't have classified ads subsidizing the foundation of news, which was local newspapers,
and allowed them to set a wall between themselves. And so I could say nasty things because I'm a professional journalist. It's okay for me to talk about this car dealer dumping oil into the river, even though he's a big spender, because there are laws against it.
right?
But what happens eventually, the online publications started doing it. They started doing the advertorials. That's when they started paying for them because they needed money. Eventually,
Yeah, so it's
TV.
it is capitalism, but it was like the divorce between the subsidy that existed in the form of classified ads. They got addicted to the heroin of classified ads, and when that went away, there was nothing to replace it that kept news alive.
And ironically, we learned to subsidize billionaires with our free labor for Huffington Post.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get all these great writers. We're going to get a couple of celebrities. We're going to get all these free writers. And then I'm going to sell it for how much? 300 million?
Yeah.
And the writers got nothing because they learned that, just like Uber and others, that millennials can be tricked into doing stuff with social progress. So then you guys come along, you're like, well, we're not doing any of that stuff.
2 notes to tie in crowdsourcing your writers. Jim, have you ever thought about writing for Wattpad? You have a inclination for fan fiction, I see. So maybe
I don't know what Blockpad is. I'm a
What-
little
what-
scared considering what we talked about earlier with the Brady Bunch.
Wattpad. Yes, it is that. It's a website full of that.
I don't want to do that.
And then
I don't want
also
to be known
has-
for that.
has
I'd be good at it.
Has anyone made the joke yet? I don't know. I didn't look at the Twitter comments. I'm not gonna, but this is the true Lorentz transformation. Anyone get that one?
No.
No.
So I mean, like I all the comments on this were kind of atrocious because Lorenz has a lot of haters online, and this was published through Disclose TV, where a lot
It is kind of sad. It reminds me of all these poor kids that are 22 and 23 going on TikTok, just complaining about life. They're like, is this it? I don't have any time for anything. My commute takes up. I don't have any money. Like, what's the point? I don't see my friends. It's like, yeah, work sucks. Oh God, did nobody tell you guys?
yeah.
Like you feel bad, but the other, like, also, where's everybody been? Why aren't we beheading school administrators and putting parents in stocks? If you're 23 and you're up there and they're serious, I don't even think it's for clout. I think there's actual genuine pain. Oh fuck, is this what life is?
I mean,
How do we not teach them?
there's definitely no easy solution to it, no matter what.
Boot camp, push-ups.
I mean, there is not an easy solution, but there could be a solution. We just have
agree.
to. We have to. First of all, we have to admit that if we want to live in a democratic environment, that we need to have a functioning fourth estate. And then, if that supposition is something that's true, that we all agree upon that is true, if it's false, then we need to figure out what kind of government we're going to want to have, because it's not going to be a democracy. But if it's true, then we have to figure out how to make a Byzantine fault tolerant democratic environment that allows for free flowing, uncorrupted information. And all the senses of the word that means. Uncorrupted in terms of we're able to say whatever we want to say, a First Amendment protected speech environment, not controlled by corporations or the government.
I just solved your problem.
Okay, sure. Go for it.
Solomon's wisdom.
Okay. Cutting babies in half.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever. We're gonna get 2 different sides, 2 organizations, one on each side, right? And what happens is each organization has to pick a budget out for the year, and then the other one gets to pick out which budget they get. So that's how you build it in, basically. If you're going to build fair time in with the fairness doctrine kind of stuff, we're going to subsidize it. but you basically split it up, and then the other person decides what they want, from TV to packages to. And if you're caught colluding with the other side, instant death.
Can you screenshot those, please?
So boring. I'm out.
Billionaires always pretend to be left wing when it benefits them financially. He must have it for years until he went mask off. Now he's the owner of the platform, something the journalists use. All the journalists use. All right.
Wow. Okay, great
exit.
today.
Great exit.
I think Peter thinks I'm old.
Oh goodness. Well,
You know what's
fuck
terrible when he
is
says
this
old
shit?
man yells at clouds. He's just doing an old Simpson bit.
yeah, he's doing a News Corp bit. That's owned by Fox. Anyway, that's a great way to sign out.
That's funny.
All right. Anyway, thanks for joining us. For those of you that stuck it out through the
Through
old
the
men
boring
yelling at the
end,
cloud.
and at old men and one odd young one yelling at
That was
cloud.
good stuff. I enjoyed it.
I
I thought it was a
enjoyed
good talk. I think it's an important talk to have. I'm sorry Peter didn't enjoy it, but you know, you
Shout
can
out
go
our
back
boy
to Simpsons
Peter.
Dude can't even
reruns.
capitalize his name.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Is
Yeah.
it E. Cummings?
Perhaps.
Yo,
We've
good.
officially made it. We have haters.
Is he a texter?
Thanks for watching.
We should have just jumped into some Taylor Swift stuff. I'm
Yeah.
sure Peter would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll talk about Taylor Swift, AI, and crypto again next week. I'm sure those just come up every single week now. Maybe not Taylor Lorenz. The people have spoken. Just stick around next week and find out. Maybe you'll be surprised.
At Peter.
You're watching The Merge, business, finance, and tech news and opinion. We keep you up to date so you don't have to go out there searching for what's new. You can hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit the TikTok subscribe, the Instagram subscribe. We're going to keep you up to date wherever you are.